Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Graystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Graystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.
Alright guys, welcome to the podcast. Hope you've all had a great week so far. Thanks for tuning in. If this is the first time you're listening, please give this a like or a rating. Put a little thumbs up on the thing. Leave a little review if you can as well. I know not all of the platforms allow you to leave a review, but it does help, especially on iTunes. So I've had lots and lots of reviews on iTunes. I think they're all 5-star, and it's just been mind-blowing to see the feedback. Not only the feedback, but the emails that I get and the messages and all that saying the people are actually implementing this stuff. They're sending me screenshots of how it's transforming their lives, their finances, their freedom, and it's just amazing. So give it a little like. You're in for a treat if you've just subscribed to this and you're listening to this one first. I will say, go back to number one and start there and kind of follow the journey along. And if you're not already subscribed to the newsletter that comes out every Sunday, that's a lot more detail. So if I was to read that newsletter, it would take... basically, these podcasts are snippets of information inside that newsletter. So, one of those newsletters could potentially be 3 or 4 podcasts, and they come out every week. So if you're not already subscribed to that, be sure to go and grab those as well. And at the moment, you can get the whole archive. So we're up to, I think, issue 32 or something like that, 33. Okay, so this week I was going to talk a bit about planning, actually, because there's a lot of people that set goals, but there's rarely people that plan goals, and they wonder why they don't achieve them. And obviously with finances and wealth and financial independence and freedom, and if you're working towards becoming financially independent, you better have a plan. And if you're working and that might just be in your business, to get out of your business. It might be to kind of achieve a level of leveraged income in your business. It might be able to create systems. It's basically anything you put your mind to. It needs planning, otherwise you're probably not going to achieve it. And I was at an assets boot camp, a funding assets boot camp this week, and it kind of opened my eyes a little bit as to how conventional business owners, or business owners that have kind of been locked in their business for too long, when they've got that proximity bias, they're within their business, they can't really see the wood for the trees. They're so close to it that they can't look down. They haven't got that bird's eye view on the business anymore, and they miss out on opportunities because they're not looking at the business holistically. They're not looking at it as a tool. And it started making me think, because we were talking about liquidity and making essentially what I did before, making the business run in a way that it's very lean, it's producing a lot of profit, but it requires little time. And I think the problem comes is when people think, okay, well, I've got this kind of non-mobile job, right? So I have to go to this office every day, but I want passive income. That doesn't exist. You can't go from non-mobile job to a passive income. It's impossible. But what you can do is everything that you do inside that business, you can first make non-mobile, Okay, and then you can start, it might be non-mobile but very passive still, but you can then start making it passive. You cannot make a non-mobile job passive. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work like that. And what we were talking about is kind of, well, how do I kind of make my business attractive to investors if I wanted to sell it, or how do we kind of create an income model, a really high income model? Because obviously when you build a business, you either go for growth, exit, or income, one of those three things. And a lot of the kind of conflict comes when there's two different partners or two different directors wanting different things out of the business. But that's another story. But what I do, what I always recommend, I highly recommend that people do for any job in their business, if you're doing something physical and it's very, very non-mobile, in other words, you have to be at a certain place to do it all the time, what you want to do is you want to first make it non-mobile. Okay, so forget about, how can I build a system to do this? How can I do this passively? How can I outsource it? Because what people were saying is if they had some funding, they would throw it at staff. And it's a massive problem, because if you throw money at more people, you've just got a bigger problem. Because there's no guarantee that those staff are going to do the job. And also, the more staff you hire, you're going to need a manager to take on, and then you incur overheads and you become less lean. And people think, but by throwing money at people, at staff, that's the way they're going to be financially independent. And although that can work, although you can pay people to do stuff, the way I always look at it is every single job in this business, or every single job that I'm doing, I want to make mobile first. Okay? In other words, I don't want to be tied to a specific place. I don't want to, be in an office. I don't want it to be kind of sat at a certain desk. I want it to be mobile. So any job that you've got, write down every single job that you do in your business and ask yourself, how can I make it? Is this mobile? Is this aspect of my business mobile? Because if it isn't, you still quite haven't solved that problem of space. You're still stuck. And the freedom comes from first relieving that, solving that issue. And as soon as you take it mobile, and what I mean by mobile, meaning you can do it from anywhere. Obviously online would be ideal. If you can get any part of your business online, if you're doing trainings, get it online. If you're doing internal staff trainings, get them online in videos. If you've got, a process that's physical on paper, get it online. Get it shared in a Dropbox. Get it online. Like, online is the most efficient way to do business. This is why you eventually end up, this is why I went into trading, okay, because it's purely anywhere, completely mobile, and semi-passive. Obviously, it still requires me to click some buttons, but it's very, very semi-passive. But you won't get to the semi-passive stage until you get online, okay? So every single job that you do, write it down, think about how you can get it mobile, ask yourself, is it mobile? Because that'll be the first sticking point. You might find, actually, we have to actually be a certain place to do that bit. That's a problem, that's a sticking point. Get it mobile. Once you're mobile, maybe you're online, maybe everything's online, then you can start to build systems, okay, or automations that then do all of those little jobs that you still require your time, but you can do them anywhere, but they don't require your time anymore. So you can build systems that no longer require your time. And obviously, if you're creating digital assets, videos and all that kind of stuff, that can all be monetized as well. If you've got teaching programs, coaching programs, maybe you've got a blog or some kind of affiliate deal or a partnership going on. Maybe you do trading, swing trading. Maybe you do some active investing. Okay, so still active investing. It means that it requires a little bit of your time, but not much. Okay, so once you do that, you can kind of see this matrix. It has to go from non-mobile to mobile, and then it has to go from very, very active to passive. You can't go from non-mobile to passive. You have to look at the business holistically, look at it from a bird's eye view and say, right, all of this stuff needs to go non-mobile, then we can take it passive. We can solve space, then we solve time. Spaceless, timeless. And that's the game. That's the game. And then obviously when you've heard Robert Kiyosaki talking about investor, being in the investor quadrant, if you haven't read that book, go and read it. When you're in the investor quadrant, you are right over in that top right. You're timeless, spaceless. You are investing, your money's churning, you are getting payouts every year. It requires tiny amounts of your time, and you're getting paid. So that's why that whole, and it doesn't require more people. It definitely doesn't require more people, and anyone can do it. You just have that way of thinking and you'll do it. So that brings us on to kind of planning, because when, people always go on about setting goals, right? Or, oh yeah, all right, we'll get this stuff all non-mobile. We'll get this stuff, from non-mobile to mobile, and then we'll kind of move over to passive. Well, how are you going to do that? Right? Because that's a goal, and everyone's a big fan of setting goals. I've seen, I've seen vision boards and things set up without any plan of getting there. And you just sit there looking at it, right? But let me tell you this. Every single thing that you've ever planned in your life, you've done. Think about that, right? If you've planned a barbecue, you've had the barbecue. If you've planned a party, you've had a party. If you've planned buying a car, you've bought the car. If you've planned, a picnic or going out or a trip, you've done that. If you've planned a holiday, you've gone on holiday. If you've planned moving house, you've moved house. Okay? And it's all because you planned it. The problem with goals is no one plans it. They forget to plan it. They set it and they don't plan it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a really, really powerful process that I use. And before I do that, I want you to think about planning a holiday. Okay, think about planning a holiday, and let's just say it's a 7-day holiday in the year. Okay, how long do you think would be a fair amount of time to say that it takes to plan a holiday? Right, you got to ring up the holiday company or look around the online holiday website, look for a place, kind of, you've got to ring up the insurance company, book the thing, maybe check out the atoll, and then maybe check your passports and do the parking at the airport and the lounge or whatever it is, right? So if you think about planning a 7-day holiday, there is 168 hours in a week, and if it's taking you 2 hours to plan that thing, that equates to about 1.6% of the entire holiday, 1.6 to 1.8% of the entire holiday, say. And when you take 1.6% of the time to plan something, it goes to plan, doesn't it? You go on holiday, it all works, everything just fine, it goes exactly how you planned. You come back and you don't have any disastrous stories. You just kind of say, yeah, when is it planned? If you was to apply that to the year, which I don't think many people do, right? If you took 1.6% of the year, say, you're talking about 5, 6, 7 days, right? Depending on how much you sleep. Let's just say we're awake for 16 hours a day. You could talk up to 10 days of planning. 10 days of planning your year. So how can you expect your year how can you expect to really knock over goals if you are not spending 1.6% planning it? If you're not applying that same principle of planning to your year, how can you expect to achieve results? You can't. There's no way. And yet people are always let down or kind of disappointed or surprised that they haven't done what they thought they were going to do. So I'm going to give you a little process that I've used for quite some time now, for many years now. And it's a really powerful way of kind of making sure that you plan your year. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say you do definitely want to set aside, at least 6 days or at least a week of planning the year. You definitely want to do that because, there's no rush. You want to take the time at the beginning of the year. I always do this in December. Okay, and sometimes it rolls into the first or second or third of the year even. But I start it over the Christmas period, and I expect it to take, a few days, over the period of a few days, because I've got used to it now. I'm quite efficient at doing it now. But a week, take a week. So what you want to do is, the first thing you want to do is you want to plan, write 3 or 4 things that you want to achieve next year or this year in the next 4 quarters. Okay, so I'm not talking about massive. I'm not talking about smashing everything. I'm talking about just 3 or 4 things that you really, really, really want to get done. Top of your list, the priority, the goals. They might be on your vision board. Take those 3 or 4 things and write them down. That's all it is, 3 or 4 things. The next thing you want to do is plan the quarters. So break those 3 or 4 things. Let's just say you've got 4 things to do. Break them into quarters. Okay, so you're going to break those 4 big goals into quarters. And write it on a piece of paper, put it on a spreadsheet. Just break those 4 things that you've said you're going to achieve into 4. Okay, so you've got 4 things, and those represent the quarters of the year. Now, of course, we know that one of those things is going to take, it's going to have components to it. It's going to have a few moving parts, a few little milestones that you need to hit maybe. So what you want to do is you want to kind of list out about 7 steps. So for instance, let me just wind you back a bit. Let's just talk about this podcast. This podcast was a goal of mine for quarter 1. By the end of March, I wanted to launch this podcast, which I launched this on the 25th of March. And that was in my goal for quarter 1. Now, to get that done, the 7 steps might have been, think of, I've got to create a name. I've then got to do the content. Let's just say content. Let's say graphics. Let's say voiceover. Let's say, the account structure, the Apple iTunes account thing, the RSS feed, getting all that set up. And you can create 7 things. Okay, 7 steps to get a podcast launched, right? Fair to say. So what I want you to do is kind of think about one of your goals. Let's just say the first goal that you wrote down. Put 7 big steps. 7 big steps to kind of achieve that goal. The next thing you want to do is you then want to spread those 7 things, right? You've only got 7 things to do, but you want to spread it over 90 days because that's the quarter. So if you could draw out 90 little blocks or squares, or you can put this in a spreadsheet, kind of highlight 90 blocks. And what I want you to do is color code those into the 7 steps. So you've got 90 days spread over 7. You've got 7 blocks, okay, with which each contain the division of 90 days. So that means you've got 90 days to achieve those 7 steps. Now you can break those 7 steps down even further. So let's just say one of mine was content. So my steps might be, okay, I want to, one of my steps in that block might be ideas, titles, okay. The next step might be bullet pointing scripts, okay, which I do. The next step might be, for content, it might be the voiceover that I do, the little voiceover. So I need to go and I need to write a script for the voiceover, for the content. The graphics block, one of my 7 steps is graphics. I want to create an icon or a logo for the podcast. I might set aside a day or 2 of the 90 days just to do that. I might set aside a day or 2 just to create a thumbnail or get a thumbnail created. Or 3 days I might set aside for that. And then one of the 7 steps in graphics might be, I want to get a headshot done, okay, and have a headshot there. And then you can see where we're going with this, right? So one of the other 7 steps for the podcast was, open a Libsyn account, okay? So that's where we host the RSS feed. So in that block, we might have Create a username for Libsyn, set up the default settings in Libsyn, set up the default publishing stuff, all the tags and the kind of description, set that up. And that might take an hour, might take 2 hours, but you've got 90 little days to tick off here just to achieve 7 things that are going to equate to that one goal being completed. Make sense? So now you've got 90 days, which are spread over 7 blocks, and those 7 blocks are going to get one goal done. So the next step you want to do is you want to set up your sessions as to when you're going to chip away at these different little chips, these little blocks, these little 1 of 90 days or 2 of 90 days. You need to set up when you're going to do it. So go to your calendar and go, right, in the morning I'm going to do 6 till 7. In the evening I'm going to do 7 till 8. At the weekend, on Saturday I'm going to do 12 till 1 in the day. And block those sessions in, okay? And they are your get stuff done sessions. And guess what? It doesn't matter. You just get a reminder to say, all right, it's my get stuff done session now. What do I do? Well, I look at my 7 blocks. I look at my 7 areas, and they're all broken into 90 days. You don't even have to do them in order. You can go, I'm just going to pick that one and that one today. It might be 1 from block 1, 1 from block 6. Might be 1 from block 4 or 2 from block 2. Does that make sense? So by breaking it down and then setting non-negotiable sessions in your calendar to work on those, what happens is you just have to beat the time. The progress bar has to just beat the time bar. That's it. You got the 90 days, you just have to tick off those progress. Tick off those things. And as long as you do, you stay within the time period, you're going to get it done. And guess what? Even if you don't get them done, you will have achieved much more than you did before you planned it. Every year, going through the years and not getting stuff done that you say you're going to do, you get it done. And finally, when you've got this big to-do list, it's not overwhelming anymore because you've broke it down into such small pieces. When you've got the to-do list, that is when you go out and you start delegating or distributing the to-dos as well, or you prioritize the to-dos. Now you've heard of the matrix of the non-important, important, non-urgent, urgent kind of thing. What you want to do is you want to go and write this quadrant on a piece of paper. So draw a square with a little cross in the middle, so you've got 4 quarters. And in the bottom left, you kind of want one that says not important on the side. In the top left, you want one that says important. On the right hand top one, you want not urgent. And basically, anything in the top left hand block, you want to be the most, do those first. Anything in the bottom left column, you want to be able to delegate in some way if possible. Try and get someone else to do it, or kind of outsource it, or get it done, or even if you've got to get it done, but just kind of make sure that it's underneath the ones that you're doing first. On the top right block, you want to be able to schedule those in. Okay, so you want to plan that stuff. It's important, but it's not so urgent, so it should be scheduled in and not forgotten before it does become urgent. And then anything in those blocks, you can either do first, plan, or delegate. And if you can't delegate, it's not the end of the world. You're still going to get this stuff done, but that's how I would arrange it. That's how I arrange it. And you can use a great app called Todoist. Okay, Todoist. I swear by it. It's very, very simple to use. It's a list app, a to-do list app, and you can set these quadrants up. Do first, delegate, schedule, or don't do, delete. If there's some stuff that you put on there and you think, actually, you don't even need to do that, and it's not important, it's not urgent, don't do it. But create a to-do list. Create a little to-do list and kind of delegate anything that someone else could do. And you will find that you'll be knocking over your goals left, right, and centre, because there's no way you can't, because you're planning it. It's not just a hope and dream anymore. It's a plan. You've got a tangible plan. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Go out and do that. Write down the 3 or 4 things. Get it down on paper. Break that down into the 7 steps. Use those 7 steps across the 90 days to start chipping away and planning how you're going to get all those little bits done. And let me know how you get on. Let me know how you get on with it and how you're managing to smash through your goals. So I wanted to kind of rein it back a little bit this week and give you a method on how to start planning all this stuff, because I'm giving you lots of action steps each week, same with the newsletter, and it's important that you're able to implement, because if you have all the knowledge and you don't take action, it's not worth having the knowledge at all. So I thought I'd just kind of rein it back and give you that little strategy to help you go along with this journey to financial independence. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. I really would appreciate if you could leave this a review or a rating at least. And until next week, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you then.
Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.